Hello, and welcome to the program. I'm so excited. President was on Jay Leno, and I strangely feel that things are better now because of it. I strangely now feel that, if the president was on Jay Leno last night, things must be okay. There must not be any kind of violence in the streets or anything like that. Hey, Stu, do you have a count of the number of arrests now from Occupy Wall Street?
It's not that many. People are overblowing the number. It's no more than, it is more than 2,400.
More than 2,400.
Right, but you remember when the Tea Parties had the 2,400 arrests?
Thousands of
was there one?
Tens of ones.
Was there one?
Well, there wasn't.
No. No.
Not per se, no, but...
These people are violent.
But there could have been millions of arrests.
Okay, but they're going to cause riots.
Great point.
Could have been.
They're going to cause riots.
Right.
Yes, and they may still. Because they hate Barack Obama because he's a black man. They hate the government.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
they're
remember,
trying to destroy the government.
There were reports that Tea Party members were brandishing placards.
That's right.
You know what placards can do to a person's head?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, they didn't do anything to anyone's head, but they could have done many things to many heads.
Just jammed them in somebody's eye.
Let me ask you: the top story on theblaze.com right now is riots break out in Oakland.
Yeah, but I mean, that's their account of it, and also it's proven by all the videos. There's about a dozen of them posted on the site. But outside of that and all the photos, it doesn't look like a riot at all. It's just,
do we have any audio from the non-riot riot?
Yeah, but I mean, yes. Well, I mean, you have yelling.
Glenn Beck is so crazy. Did you hear him the other day? He was saying, "Oh, hey, look, there's going to be riots. There's going to be riots in the streets. There's going to be violence from these things."
Oh,
what a crazy lunatic!
I think, if I'm not mistaken, you also said they hated the police. These people were showing their love just yesterday by chanting, "This is why we call you pigs."
Right. It's funny when you bring up pigs, Pat. It reminds me of the first picture in the Blaze.com story about this, which is someone who was painted on a wall. Kill pigs. The odds. One guy who's in the pork industry there at the same time.
Now, hang on just a second. Hold on just a second. When he says pigs, is this just a bacon thing? Is this just an anti-Muslim thing?
It's probably Tea Party members are there.
Yeah.
And they're the ones painting this because they're against Muslims.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they're like, kill pigs, make more bacon. That's a very good possibility.
You know what I find interesting in all the video and audio of this? There's no video or audio of them chanting that. They're just the report. But they spoke with one of the women after, one of the young girls. She looks like she's a student age, 20 something, and she's talking about the police and how brutal and awful they are.
While this was anticipated, it should make everyone really consider the monopoly of violence and the use of force on behalf of the state against its own citizens. And
It's making me consider that, the monopoly of force and use of violence on behalf of the state. That's what I've been thinking all night.
Really?
I tossed and I turned last night at 2:03 in the morning. I woke up, cold sweat. Oh my gosh, what about the monopoly of violence and violence within the state
against its own people?
Well, against its own people.
Whose interests are we really protecting? When the city of Oakland is closing down schools, closing down public schools, closing down libraries every day, and yet we have this massive police force that continues to brutalize the public, and this morning we saw how they will continue to brutalize the public.
And you saw them not brutalizing the public, but they're there, they're big, and
Did you see last night's TV program by any chance? There's this great part where I couldn't take it anymore. The guy who was like, "There's no honor in this. These people are unarmed. There's no honor in this." And I'm watching that, and I couldn't take it anymore because the video shows this Marine yelling at the police, "You gotta stop brutalizing. We're unarmed." And the cops all have their hands in their pockets.
They're not doing anything.
They're their hands in their pockets. They're like, we We know. We're standing here. We're not.
There's no honor in standing here. What, you want us to brutalize him? Is that what you want?
Right. I just don't get it.
But that video, taken from the right angle, is just one panicked man screaming. And that, as long as you take that picture from the right side, it's pretty dramatic.
And here's what I love, too. We've shown you. We've shown you the orchestration of this thing. This is like a finely conducted orchestra. Lisa Fithian puts together these people who are called arrestables. And they are set aside to be arrested because they have the right look, they have the right feel, they have the right message. And what's the message of the Marine? There's no honor in this. I mean, that's pretty compelling. If anybody is doing anything, fortunately, no one's doing anything that's dishonorable.
I don't know what you're even talking about. I can't. They're just pigs.
I'm talking about the orchestration of the
pigs
and the lack of brutality.
Pigs.
Arrestables. I like
do you remember
that.
when I said? Do you remember when I said that these people?
It's like Lunchables.
Yeah, it doesn't have crackers or cheese.
We should make a little commercial for that. Our new Arrestables, and you just peel off the tops,
and you get arrested for lunch.
You get a look. It's a little protester. New Arrestables. Oh, I can't. I don't have time. As much as I'd like to go to jail, I just don't have time in my busy schedule. New Arrestables.
That's why we put together Arrestables.
Call Brian Sack. He's got to do that. Okay, so let me play the Occupy Oakland speaker. Cut 409, please. We're all anti-capitalist revolutionaries.
Really to think in terms of anti-capitalist revolutionary struggle, and not to think in terms of anti-capitalist revolutionary struggle today is simply irresponsible. Everybody who cares about Oakland, about San Francisco, about the United States, about the world, needs to be anti-capitalist today.
Oh, how true that is.
Any kind of anti-capitalist.
Oh.
We need also to refuse the demands, but in a very different way, because we are revolutionaries.
Yes, we're revolutionaries. Yeah.
Wait, we can make demands, but we need to make them in a very different way because we're revolutionaries. What does that mean? I'm guessing that doesn't mean like we're going to have tea. We're going to call them up and we're going to send them a nice letter. What does it mean?
I got the impression that he was talking about, we're not asking you to sign a petition here. We're not asking you to go to the voting booth. We're revolutionaries. You do things in a different way. Is that not what he's saying?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
he's saying through revolution.
We're
violence.
revolution.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's good. Now, there's somebody from the Soviet Union who wanted to confront the Occupy Wall Street crowds. I set him straight. He was from the former Soviet Union, and here he is.
And when you abolish capitalism, what are you going to replace it with, I wonder?
Socialism.
Really?
Yeah.
And what do you think is going to happen under socialism?
Well, we wouldn't have people unemployed.
Really?
We wouldn't have people
No
hungry.
kidding. No
We
kidding.
wouldn't have 5% of the world's population.
Really?
25% of
What's the difference between North Korea and South Korea, I wonder?
people in North Korea?
What's the difference between North Korea and South Korea?
The workers in North Korea get paid.
Get paid.
Oh, my
Really?
gosh.
You believe the stupidity there?
Oh, my
The
gosh.
workers in North Korea get paid.
Did you read the story?
Really?
I haven't even been able to bring myself to it because I was reading in Second Kings about. There's a story that really bothered me for a couple of weeks of when the king is up on the wall and he says what happened? This woman is wailing and she says there's a woman and we have no food, and she said, let us eat your son today and tomorrow we'll eat mine. And she said, so we boiled my son. And in that time, overnight, she hid her son. And it's this horrible, horrible scene of just starvation. And it's been bothering me because the hunger is coming, gang. Hunger is coming.
And hunger has been here already in North Korea for a long time.
Yeah.
And hunger is just coming, and it may not come like that. Hopefully it won't come like that here in the United States, but it will come like that. And it's already that way in some parts of the world. But it will sweep when this system collapses and you can't move food. You can't grow food the way we do. When this system breaks down, massive starvation is coming for parts of the world. And it's really been weighing on me. And so I've read that I don't know how many times lately. And I go to the Blaze. I think it's on Friday. And there's this story about this woman in North Korea. Did you read it?
Yep.
I couldn't even read it.
It's unbelievable.
I couldn't even read it. I didn't want to.
It is horrific.
Tell the story.
She escaped. She spent, let's see, she's 41 years old. I believe she spent 28 years in a North Korean prison camp. It's one of the relocation camps where they re-educate you. And her entire family was taken because her grandfather, I believe the story goes, said something wrong against the state. She said her grandfather made a mistake. Well, it wouldn't be a mistake in a free society. So they took her entire family. Some of them went to mining camps. Others went to these prison camps. The conditions were so bad in these North Korean prison camps that she said she witnessed often mothers killing, cooking, and eating their children.
This is not, and it's not isolated to North Korea.
This is not isolated to North Korea. And this is what this Russian is trying to do. In fact, he references the cannibalism in North Korea. And they have no idea about any of this. None. They're totally clueless, apparently.
I want to put a show together, right to Tiffany. I want to put a show together next week of Soviets, former Soviets.
That'd be compelling.
People who have seen it. I'd like to find somebody who has escaped North Korea. I mean, and can recently knows about North Korea, and do 2 hours. I just want to sit around round table, maybe 6 or 8 of them, and I want to hear their stories. It's time for people to hear the stories. They don't know what if you are our age, you grew up and you know what communism means. Our children, we never taught it to them. You know, you look at the difference between Hitler and the way he's remembered and the way that Mao and Stalin are remembered. You hear about the mass death of Hitler, but you don't hear about the mass death from Stalin, and you don't hear about the mass death of Mao. You just don't hear it.
We covered that on Fox in a documentary, and we talked to a professor who is at Rutgers, and he's Ukrainian, a big expert on the mass starvation there, and he said the same thing. He talked to people who are still living in the Ukraine today that witnessed mothers eating their own children to survive. 7 million people died in a year there. I mean, and this is...
In a year.
A year. I mean, think
Hitler,
about this.
Think of this. Think of this. Why don't you know about the Hungarian starvation?
The
Ukrainian starvation. What is it called? It's...
Oh, geez, it's been so long since I...
Yeah, I know. But the Ukrainian year of famine. And it was intentionally done and enforced. What was it?
Holodomor.
Yes.
No.
Never heard of the Holodomor. Never. I didn't know what it was. 7 million people. Put this into perspective. 6 million Jews were killed in the ovens by Germany. Over how many years? 7 million people were killed by the Soviets in 1 year.
Children would go into fields to try to steal food because they were starving, and they'd shoot them. I mean, and they brutalized this country.
The first thing they did was the Soviets came in and they took the food out of the houses. They went and they collected all of the cans of food. Anything you had, they took it. They took it because they would not fold into the Soviet system. And they were, if I'm not mistaken, first the farmers weren't growing enough and shipping enough to the Soviets.
They kept raising the quotas and raising the quotas and raising the quotas, making it impossible for them to...
Right, and they said, we're starving, and we're not going to do it anymore. You're killing our people, you're killing our land, we're not going to do it anymore. And so Stalin sent his troops in and took all of the food out of the houses and then posted guards around the farms. And if you went in to steal any food, to take any of the food that you spent your life growing, they shot you. 7 million people starved to death for the good of the Soviet Union. No one wants to talk about that. Communism, we won't have 5% unemployment. Do you know Robespierre and, in the end, the glorious revolution for the people? They shot people to lower the unemployment rate. Too many people unemployed. Well, let's go take the old, the infirm, the troublemakers, and shoot them. And they did, because it would reduce the unemployment problems. It would reduce the hunger problems. When you listen to the people at Occupy Wall Street, you heard the woman we played on GBTV. There's this woman who said, you know what, we just have to go back to a farming kind of system. And we shouldn't have all this technology, and we'll go back to a farming style system. The reporter said, do you know how many millions will die? People can't farm in the cities. You can't do that.
You can't produce enough food with those old methods to feed the people.
Do you know how many millions will die? Quote, well, you have to get used to that. Death is a part of life. That's who these people are. That's who progressives are. If you haven't done your homework, man, I have to tell you something. I had Pat Buchanan on yesterday, and there was a point when I talked to him about progressives that I couldn't believe. I almost wanted to say, just get up, leave. I couldn't believe it. So unattached to the progressive movement and the history of the progressives. If you don't understand that, you don't know what we're up against. If you don't understand what communist revolutionaries are, you don't understand what we're up against. If you don't understand, in Florida, we have a judge saying he will not challenge Sharia law. Sharia law can coexist in Florida. If you don't understand what Sharia law is and that there is no moderate Sharia law, and you don't know what we're up against. And may God forget that you were my countrymen.